morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are joining us from, and welcome to today's event, Innovative Experiences of Cities on Environmental Sustainability and Climate Action through South-South and Triangular Cooperation. My name is Nele Kapp, and I'm an Associate Expert at UN-Habitat, and I have the honor to guide you through our program today. Today's event is co-organized by the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, UNOSSC, and the United Nations Human Settlements Program, UN-Habitat, to launch our joint publication with the same title. This publication is a result of the strategic partnership between UNOSSC and UN-Habitat, also highlighted by the Memorandum of Understanding signed this year, as we share similar missions and wish to cooperate to enhance the effectiveness of our development efforts. The report we launched today showcases innovative solutions that foster environmental sustainability and low-emission, climate-resilient development in cities in developing countries. It also aims to highlight how South-South and triangular cooperation is contributing to the delivery, replication, and upscaling of those solutions. Having said that, I would like to welcome Xiaojun Grace Wang, Deputy Director for Program and Operations of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, to deliver her opening remarks.
Distinguished representatives from all cities all over the world, dear partners that along the same journey with us for climate action, it is a pleasure for me to introduce this event today, aimed to showcase innovative experiences of cities on environmental sustainability and climate action through South-South and triangular cooperation. For the past week, member states have gathered at COP26 in Glasgow in global negotiations to help determine whether humanity can drive forward the urgent action needed to avoid catastrophic climate change. United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, has stated that cities and urban centers are on the front lines of the climate crisis. But cities can also boost climate action, clean energy, and sustainable development through more effective strategies and policies, especially as they recover from the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic. Under the Cities Project, UNOSSC is committed to strengthening coordination mechanisms at the subnational level to leverage expertise, knowledge, and other resources through South-South and triangular cooperation towards the attainment of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The report we are launching today provides useful insights into practical and effective solutions adopted by southern regions, cities, and municipalities to address climate change and foster environmental sustainability. United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation aims to enhance knowledge sharing and cooperation so that successes can be adapted, replicated, and scaled up by other countries and cities as well. Cities in developing countries are increasingly devising innovative approaches to adaptation. At the same time, sustainable development solutions now often originate from the global south, including for clean and low-emission energy generation, transportation, buildings, and waste management. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the local governments and municipal authorities that have enthusiastically contributed to this publication, and to UN-Habitat for another fruitful collaboration, great partnership, in the spirit of unleashing the tremendous potential of South-South and triangular cooperation for the implementation of the Paris Agreement and achievement of Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you very much for being a wonderful partner with United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation. As the poet Yessa Deli Ward said at the opening of COP26, this is your invitation to lead with light. Come leading lights. We were born to be creators of the possible future. Let's work together for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Wang, for these very inspiring words. Now I'm handing it over to Rafael Tatz, Director of the Global Solutions Division at the United Nations Human Settlements Program.
Dear Mr. Adel Abdelatif, distinguished speakers, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon from Nairobi, and congratulations to all colleagues from UNOSSC and UN-Habitat for organizing today's event. A few months ago, we welcomed UNOSSC's initiative to jointly produce the publication we launched today, presenting selected innovative experience of cities on environmental sustainability and climate action. It aims to raise awareness on our common urban challenges and to mainstream standards of sound urban development through South-South and triangular cooperation. We trust it will address your specific interests, and we encourage everyone, wherever appropriate, to digest and replicate some of the promising and innovative solutions captured here in pursuit of a sustainable, inclusive, green and resilient urban future for all. The current major global challenges, including rapid urbanization, climate change, and presently COVID-19, have highlighted the need for more solidarity and greater international cooperation. In that regard, building back better will require building forward together for success. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, over the recent years we have learned that while every city is unique, they also face similar and common challenges across the world. Most importantly, they have accumulated experiences to share and to learn from each other. This publication provides selected examples of those experiences, and as we shall hear from the invited speakers, there's a need for strong local leadership and coordination between all stakeholders, including local and national governments, businesses, communities, and civil society organizations to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by acting timely and together. The good practices highlighted in this publication also stress the need for building our interventions on integrated and inclusive approaches, leaving no one behind, particularly vulnerable groups, in devising and implementing those solutions. Dear colleagues, innovation and knowledge sharing have become key pillars of UN-Habitat's work since the adoption of the new urban agenda in 2016. They both play an important role in spreading good practices, sharing experience, and scaling up innovative solutions, thus inspiring transformative change. For us, innovation is not exclusively limited to the ongoing digital transformation. It also includes new and dynamic partnerships, new engagements, or planning approaches and efforts of inclusion and integration. This can be translated into new ways of promoting horizontal and collaborative working practices that consider diverse contexts and perspectives and can therefore help to efficiently deliver impacts at scale, put people at the center of the development process, and ensure that no one and no place is left behind. We believe that leadership is a prerequisite to materialize the above vision, and that a new culture of innovation is needed that combines creativity, capacity, and knowledge, innovative frameworks, flexible infrastructures, diverse types of partnerships, and increased predictability of funding. Our Waste-Wise Cities program provides a good practical example of this. One of its 4 action areas is knowledge and good practice sharing. And indeed, some of the waste-related experiences that will be highlighted today were shared by members of our Waste-Wise Cities network. More details and further information are also displayed on the Waste-Wise Cities website and our Urban Agenda platform, operating similarly to UNOSSC's South-South Galaxy. Our platform equally provides a forum for sharing progress, action and knowledge on the implementation of the new urban agenda to achieve sustainable urban development. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to invite those amongst you who may be interested to join our Waste-Wise Cities network, either as a member, if you are a delegate of a local government, or as an affiliate. To conclude, I would like to affirm that we at UN-Habitat stand ready to support you with further information and guidance. I wish you a successful launch session and thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Tutz, for these informative opening remarks. Now we come to the main part of our event, the presentation of innovative experiences from cities. I kindly invite all attendees to make use of the option to send questions through the Q&A box. We will reply them after the presentations. Before we give the microphone to the cities, Moritz Weigel, Senior Research and Program Advisor at UNOSSC, will shortly introduce the report. Mr. Weigel, please go ahead.
Thank you, Nele. Thank you very much. Distinguished representatives of local governments and municipal authorities, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it's a great pleasure to join you here from the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26 in Glasgow. The key role that cities are playing in overcoming the climate crisis that we're all in is becoming more and more recognized also in this intergovernmental climate change process. And at the same time, South-South and triangular cooperation are being increasingly recognized as an effective way for enhancing climate action in developing countries. And that being as a complement to the support that developed countries are obligated to provide. So this publication that we're launching today could really not come at a better moment in time. And I'm really grateful for the collaboration that we had with UN-Habitat over these past months, but in particular also with the collaboration that we had with all the cities around the world and the different stakeholders of those cities in bringing together this very rich number of success stories that we're featuring here today. And in fact, all of those stories show quite clearly how South-South and triangular cooperation can be an important component in realizing those innovative solutions. So the publication was developed based on an open call for submissions that we issued in May earlier this year. And received quite a number and quite a diverse response to that call, and worked very closely with those city-level stakeholders throughout the year in bringing together this publication. Today, we're very pleased to have representatives from 6 of the 12 success stories that are highlighted in the publication. And they will share with us their firsthand experiences, including on, for example, how climate resilience at the urban level was increased through infrastructure development in Liberia. Community-driven waste management is taking off in a city in India. Waste is being turned into energy in Vietnam. Low-emission transportation is advanced in Brazil. Sustainable urban food systems are created through agroecology in Argentina, and innovative urban planning tools are used in Costa Rica. So you see, we have really a great plethora of cases in that publication, and that will also be reflected in the following presentations here today. If anyone in the audience is here at the COP in Glasgow, I'm more than happy to meet over the next days and provide further information on the publication and also on UNOSSC's work in this area. And with this, I'd now ask my colleagues to play the introductory video that we've put together on the publication, and that really shows in much more detail and perhaps much more clearer the broad scope and the innovative solutions that are featured in it. So please over to the moderator for showing the video. Thank you.
Cities consume over 2/3 of the world's energy and account for more than 70% of global CO2 emissions. Many cities in the Global South are fully committed to changing that reality towards building a better future. South-South cooperation and scientific evidence play a critical role to promote knowledge sharing through experiences from cities around the world. In the area of waste management, Dehradun, India spearheads community-driven waste collection and recycling programs. In the area of renewable energy, Lishui, China demonstrates green hydropower solutions. For urban resilience, Monrovia, Liberia increases resilience through infrastructure development. While Danville, Argentina promotes agroecology for sustainable food systems. For more innovative experiences, go to South-South Galaxy to download the full report.
Thank you, colleagues, for showing the video, and thank you, Mr. Weige, for this comprehensive overview. Now we come to our first innovative experience, presented by Francisco Lopez, Country Program Manager at the Cities Alliance, hosted by the United Nations Office for Project Services. He will present the experience of Monrovia, Liberia, in increasing climate resilience in informal coastal communities through infrastructure development. Mr. Lopez, you have the floor.
Today, I would like to present about some of the infrastructure projects that we have been implemented in Monrovia, Liberia. You see in this picture a panoramic overview of the Monrovia city. What you see here, for instance, is the informal settlement called West Point, which, as you can see, is one of the most densely populated community areas in the city. We're talking about here of a density population of about 85,000 in 1.2 square kilometers, which becomes, very challenging to manage public services, to manage mobility, and to actually introduce new technologies. Let's look at some of the numbers of Liberia to understand the background I'm talking about. So, for instance, you see, I want to highlight here three key aspects of the Liberia, let's say, background, but most specifically that affect the greater Monrovia area. So we have a population growth that is, higher than the average in, for instance, Latin America or Europe or Asia, which is 2.5 in this case. We have 70% of Monrovia's population living in informal settlements, and we have also a high rate or high percentage of the economy being in the informal sector. So when combining these three elements, you can easily think, or you can easily note that the country is really being challenged by establishing or by moving, let's say, the informality of the settlements into the formality. With that being said, the Cities Alliance has been, focusing on implementing community-based infrastructure projects that deliver services at community level. But those services that are the most important, the key services that need, let's say, minimum investments, but bigger impact. So we do this by combining the citizen engagements, planning along with the city corporations, the municipalities, the city government, and then canalize our investments into sustainable infrastructures. In informal settlements, which is, the expertise of the Cities Alliance. And for the purpose of doing this, we have set up what we call the Community Upgrading Fund, which is a fund in which development partners cooperation agencies can, you know, put resources, they can put investments on it, and it's a decision-making platform that is ready to invest. So the COV platform, or the COV model that we have been doing in Liberia has a basis of a bottom-up participatory approach. How do we identify, how do we make sure that projects or investments in these informal settlements really tackle the most urgent needs of those communities in high vulnerability due to climate, you know, change impacts, due to informality in the economic sector, and other challenges? So the first thing we do is that we are running this identification of projects based in 4 pillars. First of all, we do a community forum, and this is a participatory activity, is a discussion at the lowest level of governance, meaning it's community level. So in this forum, the communities discuss, the communities identify what the priorities are. So some communities, for instance, I need a water kiosk. I need a renovation of an existing school building. We need a public clinic. And they decide they discuss and decide what's the best, let's say, investment. What's the best way to tackle a specific challenge that for them is the most urgent. So they find this consensus, and then they submit this consensus in a community forum that is chaired by the community leader, the chairman. And then the Cities Alliance helps or provides the technical assistance by assessing those proposals. If, for instance, a school is being proposed to be built in a swamp, then that availability is not possible for us to invest. If the community wants a community hall, we must make sure that the land in which this is going to be placed is suitable, is got the rights, is accurate in terms of location, this kind of thing. So the Cities Alliance helps by providing the technical assistance to the communities in the decision of if a project is viable or not from the technical perspective, right? This comes after they have decided what the priorities should be in terms of investing in the communities. Now, what we do at this point is to partner with the city corporations, with the Ministry of Internal Affairs, with the Ministry of Public Works, with the Environmental Protection Agency, and with Liberia Water and Sewage Corporation. So we have set up what we called the COV board, and the COV board is this accredited decision-making body. And that brings together the 3 levels of governance: the national, the city, and the community levels. At national level, as I said, we have the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Ministry of Public Works, the Ministry of Gender, and at city level, we have the 2 main cities that comprise the Greater Monrovia area, Painesville and Monrovia. And at community level, we have the community chairman. So this is a board that is, is a platform that is established, and they meet on a quarterly basis. So the Cities Alliance is reporting to this platform, to this COF board. And in this board, we presented the projects that have been prioritized and that has been assessed by the Cities Alliance. So they can decide which project is in line, which project is a priority, which is in line with the strategies of the government from the national level to the city level. And then if a project, of course, is also compliant with the national or the city regulations. So in that sense, we make sure that the project we are going to finance is fully accepted and prioritized by the communities but also is in line with the strategies of the government in both levels, national and city level. So from that point of view, then we move forward into designing, into doing all the engagements and doing all the processes internally that lead to the final implementation of these projects. So here, for instance, we have an example. This picture shows a very simple community project. This is a water kiosks connected to the existing pipeline network supply of Liberia Water and Sewage Corporation. And this water kiosk is providing water supply to a community that before the kiosk didn't have any access to running water. So in that sense, this small infrastructure, this small investment makes a big impact in this community. This community has been struggling in having, very limited access to water. People have to go fetching water 1, 2, 3 kilometers away from home. And they used to also use the water that they were fetching from wells, which is unhealthy and not appropriate for human consumption. So this kiosk is an example of a small community-driven project, community-based managed project that requires small investments, but bring a lot of impact in life-changing, activities. So this is what, we have found in the Cities Alliance that is the most impactful way to intervene and invest in some of these informal settlements that have very limited access to public services in general, right? Electricity, water, transportation, nothing of these kinds. So the impact of the COF project has been scattered in all of the 2 cities, Monrovia, Painesville, and the 10 surrounding townships that comprise the greater Monrovia area. So we have built more than 100 of these small community-based infrastructure projects, mainly water kiosks, renovation of water points, schools, renovation of existing schools, building of new schools for kindergarten. And as you can see, access to water is the activity or the project that has been highly preferred in all these informal settlements. And of course, this is due to the fact that, the country struggles in providing from the public service perspective, access to water and sanitation services. So far we have been focusing on delivering this type of infrastructure, and the impact has been I would say substantial, considering that now most of these dwellers have access in terms of the water, but also they use the water kiosks as a multi-purpose facility, meaning that they use it also as a small shop, generating revenue and serving as a gathering point for community planning of other services that now they plan along with the community departments of the city corporations. So from the perspective of the implementer in the Cities Alliance, we have identified some challenges that need to be considered when doing this type of projects in informal settlements. Lengthy coordination between communities and ministries might become a challenge, meaning that this approach of identifying with a bottom-up methodology, it has the risk of becoming an endless talk, meeting after meeting, a meeting that ends up in planning another meeting. And then the engagement is quite extensive. The availability of land in informal settlements is something to take, into consideration. Of course, that also comes with the land tenure rights. The availability, for instance, in the picture we saw at the beginning of my presentation, we have that's an area in which you have a very densely populated community area. So you don't have available land there. So whatever infrastructure, whatever, let's say, investment you want to do there, the big question is where? Where do we build this? How do we make sure that this project is going to be, allocated in a location that delivers the service, but also it complies with technical criteria, for instance. So that's a challenge. The high cost of implementation with this modality might be a little bit higher than the regular modality of engaging with city corporations alone. And this is associated with the fact that you might need a series of community engagements before the designing and the implementation. So of course that has to be considered and budgeted when planning around this type of infrastructure. And also the public infrastructure at the community level, meaning the existing public infrastructure, is very limited or poor. And that brings challenges to actually deliver construction activities in those settlements. Accessibility is limited, no water connections, very crowded areas. So you also have to plan around those specific conditions that these informal settlements have. And of course, the last one is particularly, a condition of Liberia, of actually Monrovia, and it's the heavy and long rainfalls that in this country slows down considerably the construction activities. Some lessons learned that we have identified in the Cities Alliance, I would say from the governance point of view, the first one is that facilitating the coordination between the national authorities, the city authorities, and the community members reduces considerably the social confrontation, meaning that none of our projects, for instance, has faced rejection from none of the community members. And this is because we engage them from the early stage, from the very beginning of the process. And of course, they are fully aware of the project, but also they have ownership of it. Second, I would say strengthening the existing capacities at community level, especially those capacities related to the governance of their own resources, is a way forward to build a sustainability at community level, to build a network at local level that reduces the risk of implementing projects that are improperly managed or that actually default in the long run. And identification of champion, self-motivated community leaders who can manage the facilities, who can really lead in the implementation of a sustainability plan and manage in the long run. And finally, in the programmatic, I would say improving the informal, improving basic infrastructure in informal settlements is a way forward to increase the climate resilience capacity of communities. And that's what I can say. So thank you very much.
Now, the next experience is presented by Francini Acuna from the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, and will take us to San Jose, Costa Rica to learn about improved urban planning through monitoring of land use and land cover change. Ms. Acuna, you have the floor.
I would like to say hello to all the speakers, all participants, and all attendees, and also to all the people of the United Nations Office of South-South Cooperation to allow me to share this experience. I am going to share my screen to show a brief presentation of this technology that Costa Rica has been developing about land use. So I'm going to talk to you about how we are changing land in productive landscapes and how this was adapted to an urban context from a rural one. So I am going to present a background for this tool, which is a little bit technical, but it will allow us to have some data about the use of land. This is something that was focused on rural production, where we measured waste, loss of forest, and cover change in the country, thanks to large farming in Costa Rica. This is a tool that has been developed during the year 2015 along with the program of green commodities, and from the need to monitor green spaces in the city, we adapted this methodology, and in the year 2019 we started our precise job in monitoring the land use in the city. So the area we are studying is urban areas, public and private in all the urban context. So this tool is providing us urban planning, land planning, and allows us to combat the loss of green areas in the city, since there is not a lot of planning in the processes of the country. Our work area, well, here is Costa Rica in Latin America. Here is our limits, here are our limits. This is our country, and what you see in the black line here, in the black border, is the large metropolitan area of the country, and the red area is the city, is our work area. So it is very close to the capital of the city. This is part of the territories that Costa Rica has established, and it looks to connect green spaces in the city. So in land management, we are working with this corridor, which is a very small territory with not a lot of hectares, but 8% of the country population live here. What you see in this image here has been monitored and analyzed. We have checked the green areas in this area. So the main characteristics of this tool are 5. First is the monitoring based on high-resolution satellite images. The second is an automated mapping from different processes and based in geographic information systems, known as the GIS. And the third aspect is that MOCUP has worked for 2 years. We have one for 2019, and we are working in knowing how the coverage is working in this land for 2021. So the tool is generating 3 mappings from the year which we are analyzing. The first is measuring how many green areas there are and how many gray infrastructure areas exist, and as a third, how many plots of land there are in this territory. All the information generated is of open access for all people, and it's in the platform called the National Territorial Information System of the National Geographic Institute platform. This tool has had different experiences with other countries from South-South cooperation. All the countries that have worked with cover change associated to deforestation due to commodity production. But since we have established urban mapping, which is a relatively recent tool, we have had an experience with Guatemala where we presented all the methodology process in detail, and now Peru is working so that in the next few months they are able to share their experience with other countries from South-South cooperation. So these are a few of the countries in which we have shared all the experience from Costa Rica, Brazil, and Indonesia, Paraguay, etc. This here on the left is Paraguayan government, and in the right picture we can see an experience with the government of Ethiopia. The methodology, as a summary, first we go through a preparatory phase. We select the study area, which is the biological corridor, which I showed you before. Then there is a selection of the satellite images, and now those images are processed. In a second phase, there is a processing, there is an automated sorting, and it's classified by the use of land. And then this information is validated with statistical techniques, and finally all the information is published along with all technical documentation. In this image you can see the urban parks. This is one of the largest, and how this was mapped from the satellite image. We have found as a result that allows us to plan that this is a territory where 63% of the land is urban or gray infrastructure, but even in this territory there is a 29% of green areas and even some coverage from next to the river or some forest coverage in the land. There are also some areas of growing crops, among which we find still coffee and grass pastures. So this is an urban area which has different uses and coverages. Here is an analysis, a precise analysis of the urban green areas. We have identified a very important feature, and it is that private gardens, those that are inside the houses, are the largest coverage. Those territories are private, but they are very important for city management, because we have found that through local governments we find how to incentivize people so that they do not build over those gardens, and maybe we can expand them or prevent their elimination, because even though those gardens have very few areas, very few trees and plants, they provide health and green areas to the people. So they are very important for urban planning. A second class is forests around rivers in the protected areas, and a third area, a third class, is the natural regeneration areas within the city. Now, regarding plantations, there are more than 200 hectares of coffee, which means that there is a territory that still grows coffee, and there are around 32 hectares of pasture areas for livestock. These are coverages that are present, but this monitoring allows us to monitor them through time to see if they are being built. So this is one of the areas that we're looking at to see how urban expansion is removing or changing the land use from plantations to buildings. The lessons that we have learned in this process is that first we have achieved monitoring through satellite technology, and we are able to do this with high precision. A second feature is that we can provide low-cost monitoring tools, because if the costs are very high, it may be different for Latin American countries to be able to sustain this financially. So we need to look for low-cost monitoring tools. Costa Rica has had this experience monitoring deforestation in rural areas, and we are able to adapt this methodology to the city with higher precision, improving our mappings and adapting to the urban context. We can also say that one of the lessons learned is to be able to have these mappings with open access so that the technical documentation is open access as well, because this has allowed other cities to replicate this model and generate all the incentives. And we can also train people and train decision makers to use this data and plan accordingly. The fifth and very important feature is that these data allow local governments to improve management of territory with precise and temporary information which is applied to the specific area where they are going to work. And this also leads us to policy making for land planning. So this is accompanied by a process of monitoring and also environmental education, where the population is incentivized to keep these green areas in their private lands and to promote that there are more green areas in the city. And at the same time, we can raise awareness to not lose these green areas, and that we can make an orderly planning for the general population. For more information, within the page mocup.org, you can find all technical information. Thank you very much.
Next up is Chirag Mahajan, Senior Manager for Strategic Partnerships and Communications at the Waste Warriors Society, who will tell us about the experience of Dehradun, India, in spearheading community-driven waste management. Welcome, Mr. Mahajan.
So I am going to be talking about community-driven waste management here in Dehradun, India. It is basically to address a much larger global problem that we have going on right now, right? Mismanaged waste is really reaching a big tipping point in many ways, just as much as our carbon emissions are as well. Plastic pollution is also reaching a big tipping point around the world. Here in India, the Himalayan region, all the way from Kashmir till Meghalaya, the World Bank and Niti Aayog are estimating about 8.4 million metric tons of waste is just being generated in this region alone, right? And given the lack of waste management services and infrastructure here, over 60% of this is being dumped or burnt in the open. So we have large-scale dumping, widespread littering, and a lot of unchecked and unstopped burning as well. This region, of course, is home to a lot of animal species as well, right? Both animal and bird species, about 30,000 animal species here. This region is also home to about 170 protected areas. And unfortunately now we're reaching a point where plastic is being found in all of these places. So, and all of this has, a major root cause, multiple root causes behind poor waste management, right? There's a change in consumer patterns in urban and rural areas. There's a lot of new consumer goods and single-use products coming in at a retail level. There is, in general, a lack of government convergence and enforcement. There are many different government ministries and departments and schemes and missions, but there is general lack of convergence between each one of those. Given
Recording in progress.
Given the terrain in the Himalayas, there's also very difficult logistics here, as well as poor infrastructure. And last but not least, there's a lot of social stigma around waste, especially here in India, and a lot of informal livelihoods around that as well. We're talking about over 4 million waste pickers just in India itself. So what are we doing? We're a waste management NGO. We've been around since 2012. Our aim is to, as Mr. Francisco said, to work with the community to build, developing, and to build sustainable solid waste management solutions and systems that require an integrated approach, right? It's not just about being a service provider for waste management. It's about engaging the community, changing their behavior, working with the municipality to build waste infrastructure, strengthening those institutions, doing capacity building, training, knowledge transfers, and then also in parallel, empowering waste workers, both informal and semi-formal as well, right? So we have been operating in several different locations, 5 so far, Dharamshala, Dehradun, Govind Reserve, which is a wildlife sanctuary about 70 kilometers away from the Indo-China border, Rishikesh and Haridwar, which are on the bank of the Ganga River, and the Corbett landscape with Corbett Tiger Reserve. It's one of the oldest tiger reserves in Asia. So all of these places, we're tackling them because the tourism influx in these areas is huge. These are areas that are developing both from a rural to urban perspective and then an urban to a larger urban perspective, right? So our primary focus is essentially SDG 11 and 12, building sustainable communities, teaching people the importance of responsible consumption. And so today I'm just going to focus on Dehradun. It's part of UNOSSC. So Dehradun is the capital of Uttarakhand state. It's literally a valley city in between 2 mountain ranges. It's got about 187 square kilometers of built up area, about 1 million population here. And in terms of urban division, it's divided into 100 city wards, right? There's a municipal corporation that is in charge of this entire urban area. Our pilot project focuses on building model wards in one of these city wards. And our focus is in Harawala, which is southeast of Dehradun. So what is a model ward? For us, as the previous speaker said, it's a lot about community engagement, literally door-to-door engagement in most cases, engaging them on the importance of waste management, informing them of source segregation and home composting, and getting them to participate in this process of getting them to collect, give their waste to our vehicles. What the purpose of doing that is essentially to reduce the amount of waste that they are dumping and littering and burning in their neighborhoods, right? We've seen a massive reduction in that process of waste dumping and burning. And all of that is being collected in a segregated manner and is being sent to a waste management facility. A model ward is also about integrating waste workers in the neighborhood and across the city and improving their livelihoods by providing them better rates for the recyclable material that they have. So overall, our process is pretty straightforward, but because it's a pilot initiative in an area of the city that has just recently been incorporated into the municipality, it was previously a rural area, right? So engaging the community is very difficult, going door to door, informing people of the importance of source segregation, collecting that waste in a segregated manner as opposed to collecting it mixed and then sending it to the landfill, and then sending that segregated waste to a material recovery facility where waste workers are being hired to sort and aggregate the waste. In parallel, all of this is happening in parallel to engaging waste workers and sourcing material from them that they pick informally, and also training and employing them and getting them to be part of this more formal integrated waste management approach. And at the end, of course, sending all of that material for further downstream recycling, which is a much bigger process in itself, which we're not necessarily a part of because it requires a lot of capital expenditure to do that. But these parallel steps are what we focus on here in Dehradun. So just in terms of quick numbers, in this pilot area, just from October 2020 onwards, so literally almost 1 year, we've seen about 84% engagement and participation in this area of one ward. We're talking about almost 1,500 households and about 100 businesses. Business participation is quite a challenge. To convince people that they actually have waste, a lot of the general response is, oh, we don't have waste. But informing them of what is waste, where it goes, how it should be separated, and their role and responsibility in that is a key part of that engagement and participation. In this past year, we've just managed to collect about 467 metric tons of waste. Of that, dry waste is 44 metric tons. A big challenge for us is actually managing organic waste. That type of infrastructure is something that's not available to us yet. And as the previous speaker said, getting the land for that is very, very difficult. Land allocation is a big challenge in growing urban areas. And all of this is being done just by 3 vehicles with 7 people on the ground, and with operating expenses just about 27,000 USD, right? So this goes to show that a model ward like this is possible to do at a relatively inexpensive price, and communities and wards outside of this ward that we focus on, and even in other cities, should be inspired by this and try to replicate that in their cities. So how do we sustain this, going forward? It's not necessarily a civil society's job to do waste management. It's the municipality's job to do waste management. But the point of doing this is to show that it is possible to do, especially in growing cities like Dehradun. At the base level, it's all about public participation, source segregation, and segregated collection. And after that, it's a lot about waste worker engagement. There's so many informal waste workers, not just in Dehradun, but in almost every city in India that's growing. Engaging them, training them, employing them, integrating them into the formal systems is very, very important for waste management. The second tier of all of this is material recovery. After doing all of this, after collecting so segregated waste, it's all about recovering that material, right? The whole point of the circular economy doesn't work if the material can't be recovered to begin with. So, and then of course, linking that to the recycling markets and then generating some level of revenue from that is really important for the program to keep sustaining itself. And then lastly, and most importantly at the top, is municipal policy support. Municipalities have to sort of start supporting this level of community engagement, waste worker engagement, recycling market linkage, and so that they can thrive and improve their infrastructure as well. So yes, that's all from me. Thank you so much. I'll hand it over to Nelly.
Next on the line is Ms. Huang Yan, who is the Deputy Director of the International Center on Small Hydropower. She will share with us today the center's work in Lishui City in China and its experience in developing an international demonstration zone for green hydropower, which offers an innovative model and approach for effective integration of green hydropower, water and biodiversity conservation, urban development, and ecotourism. Ms. Huang Yan, we are all yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be invited to attend this online event. The launch of the publication, Innovative Experience of Cities, Environmental Sustainability and Climate Action through South-South Cooperation and Chamber Cooperation, which includes the case study of demonstrating green hydropower solutions in Lishui recommended by our organization, International Network on Small Hydropower and the Local Water Resources Bureau. So firstly, I would like to take this opportunity to make a briefing and summary of this program. The Lishui International Demonstration Zone for Green Hydropower project developed an innovative model for the effective integration of green hydropower, water and biodiversity conservation, urban development, and ecotourism. The model includes effective policies, regulations, and incentives, technology innovation, gender-sensitive approaches, and the international demonstration financing. The Lishui city is located in the Zhejiang province in the east of China. Has a total area of 17,300 square kilometers and a population of 2.7 million. So in this city, the rivers are widely distributed with high drops and abundant hydropower resources. So with the hydropower development policies and initiatives, a large number of the local private stakeholders invested in hydropower projects. So the hydropower generation is the region's leading industry. However, the industry itself faces a number of key challenges, including the sustainable urban development and the environmental protection. So in this context, our organization, INSHIP, and the local government initiated this program to contribute to the further development of the hydropower industry, effectively promoted regional and urban development, and improved the environmental conservation. So by now, more than 800 hydropower stations were built in this city with an annual generation of 7 billion kWh, and it has provided 15,000 local employment opportunities and benefits to more than 150,000 people locally. So, based on the urban development plan and guided by the concept of sustainable development, a series of policies, plans, and initiatives were formulated to promote the local development of hydropower and construction of green hydropower stations. So there are many innovative solutions in these following 6 aspects. The construction of the green hydropower stations highlighted the indexing requirements for the discharge of ecological flow, emission reduction, and ecological restoration. So this program has implementation of this project resulted in a city-wide innovation system for sustainable energy and urban development with remarkable achievements regarding low emission, climate resilient, and development and the SDGs, including through South-South and triangular cooperation. So there are some specific results, include 12 green hydropower demonstration zones, and refurbishment of 110 hydropower plants, and they have made the China's first guidance document on an initiative mechanism for the ecological discharge of hydropower projects. So although it has get totally success in Lishui locally, I should emphasize that we need to pay attention to more aspects when we want to promote this experience to other regions. Firstly, we should pay attention to that the design, implementation, and the promotion of this green hydropower development need to be adjusted to the different situation of regions and countries in line with their different policy, social, economic, and cultural environments. And we should make sure that green hydropower development is driven by the local needs and priorities and aligned with local development plans. The private sector plays a very important role in the hydropower development process. So it's very important to make the initiatives to encourage them to be engaged in the programs. In addition, taking a holistic approach by expanding hydropower development from utilization of clean energy to include water security, river restoration, and ecotourism greatly facilitates stakeholder engagement. So, in a conclusion, this project innovated a model for an effective integration of green hydropower, water and biodiversity conservation, urban development, and ecotourism. And it combines long-term socio-economic and benefits with the environmental protection. And it has already been successfully being replicated in a series of demonstration projects implemented through South and triangular cooperation. So I think this experience in the Lishui city can benefit and can be transferred to other places. And I hope one day the local stakeholders may visit this city and we can exchange the experiences and the policies. I think the Lishui's experience may promote the small hydropower development worldwide and make the city sustainable development through the clean energy. Okay, thank you very much.
Now we are staying in Latin America, and we'll hear about the promotion of agroecology for sustainable food systems in Tandil, Argentina, from Ignacio Iglesias, who's working at the municipality of Tandil. Mr. Iglesias, we are looking forward to listening to you.
So I'm going to talk about the program El Arraigo that we are doing in the agroecology coordination. This coordination depends from the Secretary of Productive Development and International Relations from the municipality of Tandil. So Tandil is located in Argentina. It's an intermediate city of 140,000 inhabitants, and it has a very diverse economic and productive structure. And so we have a lot of manufacture, agriculture, software development, building, and gastronomy. So also the municipality of Argentina, of Tandil, has been working a lot in internalization process. So for almost 2 decades, we have a really big agenda on foreign policy. So last year, 2020 and 2021, Tandil has been the president of Mercocidades, that's their group, Latin American cities, and also have been working a lot with UN-Habitat, ICLEI, and the SHICOM. So we have been working from the agroecology coordinations in 3 words, we can say: production, promotion, and education. This has to do with producing food for the community and in the alternative production system. So we are trying in this type of productions in not using very much chemicals. So we produce in a natural way. So for that, we need to develop a lot of new knowledge and also give that knowledge to the people. We have 2 types of working. One is on-site work, so we go to the farm. We work with volunteers last year, 35 volunteers from the city. They went there to do some pumpkins that then they were distributed to the hospitals and low-income people. We also work with private companies like Epicos. They produce some cereals that are not really common in Argentina. We can say teff, amaranthus, and mijo. Also, we work with having bees in the farm, and we do a lot of improvements there, like electricity, fencing. So we're trying to improve that place so the community can go there and produce their own food. Off-site works is the things that we do out. We work a lot in generating gardens here, urban and peri-urban vegetable plots. So Tandil City import 90% of their food in vegetables. We import it from neighbor cities. We can say that is $13 million annually. So we have only 30 hectares that own production of vegetables. We estimate that we can go to 200, 300 hectares. So we are trying to work from the municipality in a development project. So more people invest and work in this area. We have a huge development potential, but we have some, we can say, problems. We need more education and training because a lot of people don't have the abilities to do these things. We have to develop more the local market because nowadays people is going to the neighbor cities, buying the vegetables and bringing here. So we need to try to change a little bit that model. We know that to increase the ability of local food, both in quantity and quality, we need to generate greater awareness in the people, knowledge about how to produce the food, and make the shops of producing food more decent. Sometimes the people that is working on the land is the ones that are the more poor, and they are like 12 hours a day working there. So that's another thing to work on it. So then another thing we were doing from the coordination was a lot of institutional relationships. We know from nature that the strength lies in the synergy. We have a lot of like a highly developed local institutional framework here, a lot of universities, municipal, also agencies from provincial government, national government. So we try to make them work well together, like coordinate that effort so the actions can be better. So we work a lot in managing the information, networking, connecting people with people, also the resource management, trying not to do like two agencies the same thing. So, okay, you're going to do this, we are going to do that. So that needs a lot of communications. So together from the coordination, we seek to connecting the producers and the consumers, also the rural and the urban areas, promoting local markets, supporting sustainable territorial development, and strengthening intersectoral institutional linkage. How we plan to do this, what we have been doing is formal recognition of alternative production models, working in public policy engagements, community outreach, also working with universities in what kind of research they do, reallocation of funds and investments, and generating alliance between producers. So we understand that if we want to change our model of food production in a way, we need like planning in long-term times, 5, and 20 years. Reevaluating the production change, we have to increase a lot of the visibility and the awareness of the people. Here, as I was saying, Tandil is like an agricultural city in a big portion, but we have like a lot of things we produce, they go out of the city and then they come back. For example, the meat, so we produce the cow here, then the cow goes to another part of the country and then it comes back as meat. So we are working also in changing, so trying to produce and industrialize the food here. We need to generate more metrics, we are working on that, and also have a full knowledge of the cycles, what are the inputs, the waste and the energy. And above all, work with the community as a whole. So we have been generating periodical meetings with the institution. We have been serving the interests and the needs of the community, forming a local agriculture network, mapping the actors, so who is producing, who is industrializing, who is commercializing, and a lot of public promotion. So what we have achieved, at least in 2021, so we make like 3 mass agroecology 2021 events. That's the name of the event. So we work in 3 different topics in each one. The first one was about public policies and what experience we have in the city. Like we have around like 20, 25 different experiences of alternative productions in Tandil. So the second agroecology event was going to the farms and visiting, that's getting to know the people, how they work. And the last one was about a participatory guarantee system. That is so producers can certificate their own production altogether. So we have been working also in a law for the promotion of this type of production. We have been working with the provincial government in registering the producers. We have been giving subsidies to local producers. Also, we have created a municipal urban vegetable plots. So we start setting new vegetable plots in the city. So this is like a team of 5 people. They go to different parts of the city, working with the community there, so with the neighbors. They take like a space. For example, the first one was in a place that was full of garbage. They take all the garbage out and they start doing a vegetable plot. So we give them the knowledge and the tools, and then the people of the community start producing their own food. So we also create an interinstitutional committee to work on the city's horticultural development plan. That we have only 30 hectares. We need to go to 200. We start a new course on vegetable production, so that's the education. So we start putting new courses. We're working with the provincial and national governments. And well, with the volunteers that I was talking today, we made like 35 tons of pumpkins that we are going to hospitals and sub kitchens. And also in that farm that we produce agroecologically, we make like 2,200 tons of flowers that we are going to give to the Celiac Association of Tandil. So they are going to industrialize and give it to celiac people. So well, like we know that communications leads to community. So we need to keep community talking with community to get understanding, intimacy, and mutual value. So thank you very much. That's what we have been doing, at least for this year.
Now I'm asking Wei Chen, General Manager of Everbright Environmental Energy Kanto Limited, to the floor to tell us about a waste-to-energy project in Kanto, Vietnam. Mr. Chen, we are looking forward to hearing from you.
Right. Hello, everyone. I'm the General Manager, Chen Wei from Everbright Environmental Energy in Vietnam, Kanto. I'm going to introduce to you our waste-to-energy incineration projects in Vietnam. First of all, some brief introduction about our company. We were established in Hong Kong in 1993. Our business is in technologies surrounding renewable energies and also environmental protection projects. We are the biggest global operator in terms of the waste-to-energy incineration. We handle 60,000 tons of garbage on a daily basis. So not just in Vietnam, we also have plants in Poland and Germany. Next, I'm going to introduce to you the project in Kanto. Kanto City is about 160 kilometers away from Ho Chi Minh City. It's one of the 5 largest municipalities in Vietnam and is bordering with Ho Ninh, Nam Pho, and Hai Phong. So the daily volume of domestic waste removed in Canton is about 650 tons per day. And our project in Kanto accounts for 75% of the entire waste removal volume in the city. Our plants covers an area of 5.3 hectare, and we can handle 400 tons per day per incinerator. We have reached the European 2010 discharge standard, and we have achieved a fully reused for our slags. For the fly ashes, we do safe disposal. So our garbage reduction rate reached about 97%, and we can reduce emission, reduce CO2 by 60,500 tons per year. And for power generation, we can do 60 million kilowatts hour per year. Here you see some photos taken for our plants in Kanto, and also some city pictures from the city. So this slide shows you pictures, including government officers' visits and resident visits to our plants. So our project is open. So for the first Friday of each month, we will have an open day so that people can visit our plant. We think this is a great opportunity for people to increase their awareness to the waste management approach. We have also got numerous awards in Vietnam about our process. It contains 6 steps. So first is the discharging system. So after the trucks transport the garbage, it takes 5 to 7 days of fermentation. And next, we're gonna burn and incinerate our garbage. The heat and steam generated from the burning, the combustion process, will be utilized to generate power, which is connected to the local grid. We also have flue gas treatment system. We use the semi-dry and dry methods to treat our flue gas. Before we discharge it, it already reached the European 2010 standard. We will also recycle the slag and handle with our fly ashes before we bury it. So for the leachate, we also treat it and use it as the cooling water for our plants. In this slide, you see before the combustion. Well, this is the process before the combustion. So it's mainly about the transportation of the garbage. I've already introduced it, so I skip this slide. This slide shows you with the furnace grades, the furnace grade blades we use. The grade blade we use for our plant can be fully utilized and adapted to the garbage. And in general, our downtime is on average 5 to 7 days per year, meaning that in the past 3 years, there was almost no downtime. So our plant is always operating in converting waste to energy. This slide shows you some figures and indicators for our treatment. So basically, we all reach the EU 2010 standard in terms of these discharge gases. The slide shows you the process for us to treat leachate. So basically, we have anaerobic tank, membrane tank, anti-filtering tank to treat our leachate. So after we treat it, the leachate can become the cooling water. Thus, we have fully recycled the leachate for our plant. This is for the fly ash. After we treat with it, we'll bury it. And also for the slag, after treatment, we will extract some of the materials which will become building materials. Some milestones for building up this project. Starting from 2016, we got the approval from the government. It took us 17 months to construct this first waste-to-energy incinerator in Vietnam. Some photos to show you the process of our construction. The city of Kanto in our project in Kanto is the first of its kind to do waste-to-energy incinerator. So this slide shows you all the approval processes we went through. I'm quite grateful for local government. We compiled with all the approval process, including getting the business license and also doing the plant planning. Our incinerator is also the first environmental protection, city-level environmental protection project in Kanto City. Apart from treating domestic waste, we have recruited many local employees, provide capacity training programs. We set up the trade union to engage with more local people and guarantee that they have a good working environment. To sum up, with support of the government and lots of support given by different parties, we became a pilot project in Mekong area, Mekong Delta, and also the first waste-to-energy incinerator plant in Kanto. We fulfilled our commitment. We even went beyond that, helped improve the local infrastructure to fight against environmental pollution. We're also one of the biggest job employers. And we have created a good corporate culture that engage both Chinese staff and local staff. We utilize technologies from China and managerial standards, good practices from China. All of what we've done are highly acknowledged by local people. I believe this is a good, innovative practice example for the logo. We have also set up a highly recognized waste treatment technology process in Vietnam. And also through cooperation between government and enterprises, our project proved that even small-scale waste-to-energy projects can achieve reasonable investment returns. Last but not least, our company, the Everbright Environmental Energy, is also one of the international partnership under the Green Belt and Road initiatives. Our company will continue to carry on further projects in Kanto, in Mekong Delta, and also in other cities in Vietnam. Want to do more contributions under the Belt and Road initiative. Thanks for listening.
Now we will hear how Latin American cities are shifting to zero-emission buses. This experience is presented by Francisco José Moura de Castro, Special Advisor for Sustainability at the Municipality of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Mr. Moura de Castro, the stage is yours.
I would like to start by thanking the United Nations for South-South cooperation for the opportunity to present such a prominent project that Sao Paulo has been developing over the last 2 years. I'll try to be as brief as possible. I take this time also to greet my fellow panelists. It's a pleasure to speak alongside you and to hear, as I've heard already, about so many great projects and ideas and cooperation. São Paulo has two projects selected by the UNOSSC and as innovative experiences. One is the Zebra project that I will speak about shortly, and the other one is the Advancing Organic Waste composting, for which I salute my colleagues from the Municipal Authority for Urban Cleaning in São Paulo. That is our authority that deals with waste management. It's recently been reshaped, but it's still now it's called SP Regula. So it's a different structure, but still within the city's network. The Zebra Zero Emissions Bus Rapid Deployment Accelerator Initiative aims to deploy the transition for electric buses in Latin America. Idealized by C40 cities, the International Council on Clean Transportation in close cooperation with São Paulo, Medellin, Mexico City, and Santiago. Electric buses are gaining a prominent role in Latin America and are an important part of São Paulo's goal to decarbonize completely by 2050. Since 2019, we have been working alongside these international partners, aiming to ensure municipal commitments towards zero emissions for our bus fleet, to develop and implement strategies to escalate our decarbonization goals, and sharing best practices between cities. So we're very glad to say that thanks to the work from our Municipal Department of International Affairs, we've managed to exchange valuable experiences with other cities, not only within the scope of the Zebra initiative, but also bilaterally, which is very, very important for us. Here in São Paulo, the electrification strategy started with the implementation of a pilot program of 70 buses, which allowed us, in close partnership with Zebra, to identify limitations and advantages of applying this type of technology to our entire bus fleet. A big challenge, considering we have over 14,000 buses. In the scope of the project, we had the opportunity to promote workshops and seminars to broadly discuss the electrification possibility in São Paulo. In order to assure a successful transition, it is key that we engage bus operators, manufacturers, and financial institutions. So what happens in São Paulo is we have 14,000 buses, and they are operated by a few, around 30 companies, individual companies. They operate specific lines within the city, and they own the buses. The city of São Paulo subsidizes these operators so that the fare is kept at an acceptable level, the daily fare for use. So it's a very important project, but it's a very big challenge because there are many actors involved directly. So it's not just the municipal government. So we can't just decide that we're going to have this transition and set the tone. We set the tone, but it involves a lot of negotiation and cooperation between our outside collaborators and even within our own city hall, our own city administration. Electromobility is a developing technology with a myriad of possibilities. The technical support from Zebra has been essential to help us understand new business models available that can help São Paulo accelerate the transition and fulfill our very ambitious goal to have a completely zero emissions bus fleet by 2038. And with the intermediate goal of electrifying 20% of our buses, around 2,600, 2,700 buses by 2024. So in the next 3 years. The sharing of experiences with electrification projects in Latin American cities, as I said, generated subsidies to review the maintenance costs of electrical vehicles, which is central when comparing electrical buses with their diesel counterparts, continuously demonstrating that electric vehicles are advantageous precisely because they have lower costs in the long run. So the operating costs is what we found within the 15 years of shelf life, let's say, for the buses is lower than that of diesel buses. also because diesel buses have a shelf life of 10 years. So the initial investment in theory is larger, but the economy is very significant in maintenance, operation, and the bus lasts longer. Moreover, the Zebra project made it possible to strengthen the engagement of different actors within the municipal administration, facilitating the support of the achievement of the bus fleet transitions stipulated on our municipal government plan. So it's already we have a clean climate action bill that was instituted a few years ago. Then this year we've launched our own municipal climate action plan, which is very much dependent on the transition of our bus fleet. The transportation sector in São Paulo is responsible for about 62% of carbon emissions in our city. And the public buses are about 25%. So by decarbonizing completely our bus fleet, we would diminish our carbon footprint to a very, very large extent. We've had experiences with, very good experiences with Colombia and Chile, exchanging notes. They are a little bit further down the road in the process than we are, admittedly. But if everything goes well, by the end of 2024, we'll have the largest bus fleet in the world, second in truth only to China, because they have tens of thousands electric buses already. Also, China is an important partner because they are a major producer of batteries and electric buses. So this is more or less just a panoramic view of our project, which is going on nicely. We're about to open 10 years to start the bidding with electrical solutions and companies. So there are different business models that we're still evaluating, but it's going well. So that's more or less our experience. Thank you.
At this point, I want to thank all our speakers for sharing these interesting, inspiring, and innovative experiences of cities on environmental sustainability and climate action for South-South and triangular cooperation with us. Now we had said we have time for some questions, and therefore I would like to invite all panelists to turn on their camera for this final round and kindly ask you to raise your hand if you would like to answer or comment to the question we have. So the first question we have is if you have any statistics relating to female participation across your project, or also if any of your projects have been led by women. So if you would like to answer that question, please just raise your hand or just take the floor. And also I'm seeing a few have not yet managed to turn on their cameras. Yes, please, Mr. Moura de Castro.
Hello. So our project, the Zero Emissions Bus Initiative, is in theory, the project resides within the Municipal Department of International Affairs, not only, but with our major participation and intervention, then we can say that it's definitely led by a woman, our Municipal Secretary of International Affairs, Marta Suplicy. She's personally committed to this agenda, and so is the mayor. The mayor is not. She was a mayor of São Paulo a few years ago, and now she's the Municipal Secretary of International Affairs, and she's personally committed to this transition to zero-emission buses. So yeah, and she's in a prominent position in government. So I'd say this is very interesting.
Definitely, thank you. Anyone else would like to? Please, Mr. Maharajan.
Thank you. Yeah, so in Dehradun, we are engaging 60 waste workers who are waste pickers. We formed 10 self-help groups, so 6 self-help groups, 10 women in each group. And they are essentially that they earn their daily wage by picking waste across the city. And they sell their waste to our material recovery center at a higher rate than they would otherwise to local scrap dealers. And then some of them have been hired at the facility and been trained on how to operate waste processing machinery like baler and shredder and an air blower. So in that way, we're trying to engage more of the waste picking community and get them to see the advantages of being integrated and formalized into this sort of integrated waste management system.
Great, thank you for sharing. Ms. Acuña.
Sí, de hecho todo el equipo técnico que ha desarrollado la herramienta.
Yes, all the technical team is composed by women, and we train them to let them know how they have to use the data.
And then Mr. Lopez.
Thank you. You know, in informal settlements, women are the most vulnerable sector because normally they are in charge of the family or the kids, cooking, you know, all these family and house activities. So what we have done to create some economic activities for them is the water kiosk that I showed in the picture is a multi-purpose structure. So we have put some seed capital, you know, in that kiosk, so it becomes a small shop, selling soap, selling rice, selling small foods, these kind of things. And we have targeted the identification of community leaders who are female, so they can take over the management of that kiosk and turn the kiosk into not only an infrastructure that delivers water, for, you know, as a public service, but becomes a business case for this woman who manage the facility and who also network with some other women in the community. So we have been doing this in all the kiosks. So we have now 104 of these kiosks that serve as a multi-purpose business case.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you. And then at this point, sorry, yes, Mr. Iglesia, I didn't want to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
Sorry. So I'm going to use the Spanish to answer this question. En nuestro proyecto, más que nada lo que son huertas urbanas, está liderado.
In our project led by women, they are social workers, and there are also volunteers in the land production, both women and men work. We work with elderly people who are between 50 and 70-year-old, and most of them are women.
Okay, great. And I see also Mr. Chen had raised his hand. Did you want to say something to this question?
Yeah. So in our company, because it's about waste management, but we want to have more inclusion, we have hired 7 local Vietnamese together with other service providers like the facility management team. Some of them are females. We hope they can learn cutting-edge technologies. For people working in the financial department, in the warehouse storage management, and also the sorting or the coding, environmental project coding department, we will sometimes ask some female employees to participate. I think this is a great opportunity for them to learn. That's all for me. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. And great to see that there's already so much happening in this aspect. Unfortunately, in interest of time, we won't have the chance to take another question. But again, thank you so much for joining, for sharing your experiences with us. And I'm sure there will be more engagement later on. And now I give the floor again to Xiaojun Grace Wang to introduce a video and conclude today's event.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is such an exciting workshop. I would like to thank again the local governments and municipal authorities and partners who have participated in this report and attended today's seminar. The solutions generated from your cities, communities, and projects are relevant and practical to local context, inspiring in demonstrating vertical and horizontal linkages of policies, practice, and partnerships. And most importantly, I found them very much a source of inspiration, a source of confidence that positive changes are taking place globally, especially in the global south. However, we all know the urgency of climate action. Only by working together, we can scale up such solutions to have an impact globally. South-South and triangular cooperation is exactly to support achieving that through promoting your knowledge and brokering partners from developing and developed countries, from public sector and private business to exchange technologies and take collective actions. Today, the world is facing compounded crises. Climate change is endangering human development. Inequality is dividing the world. Uncertainty is challenging our collective wisdom. Yet, cities coming together to support each other will be a transformational force to make the world flatter and greener. As global citizens, we are building a new community of global cities today. Just now I saw a question about whether UNOSSC will monitor those projects. Let me also address that. Stay connected with the Cities Cooperation Project. You and your peers and your partners, by working together, will be the best monitor, the best progress maker in your journey ahead. And stay connected with South-South Cities Cluster on the knowledge sharing platform, South-South Galaxy. There, we encourage all partners to share your knowledge, update your progress, and make the asset of knowledge most relevant and useful to your partners. We're looking forward to continue supporting your innovations on the ground, sharing your knowledge, and facilitating partnerships with you globally. Thank you very much.
City-to-city cooperation has become a very important vehicle for the advancement of the Sustainable Development Goals on the ground. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation created the Cities Project, designed to identify needs and offer support to cities on needs assessment, capacity development, advisory and advocacy, partnership brokering, co-financing, and implementation support. In 2019, UNOSSC launched South-South Galaxy, a virtual knowledge-sharing and partnership brokering platform that enables Southern partners to access information, resources, share good practices, and collaborate. This digital repository has over 380 institutions that have shared over 700 good practices and innovative solutions and latest news on South-South and triangular cooperation. The South-South Cities Clusters is a new online community that brings cities to the South-South Galaxy platform to interact and exchange with UN specialized agencies, experts, and partners to facilitate city-to-city horizontal cooperation and exchange. The 7 thematic cities clusters were created in response to partner cities' interests in sharing, connecting, and engaging with other cities from the Global South. We are launching the Waste Management, Green Cities, and Renewable Energy Cluster, which is designed as a repository for South-South cooperation, serving as a virtual platform for cities to promote knowledge exchange, good practices and experiences, news and updates in waste management and renewable energy, interact with the UN and other partners, and access capacity building training opportunities and connect with South-South funding mechanisms. UNOSSC and the South-South Cities Project welcomes all cities and partners to join the South-South Cities clusters.
Dear audience, we are at the end of our program. Thank you very much for attending our event and showing interest in the experiences from cities on environmental sustainability and climate action for South-South and triangular cooperation. If you are interested in more, please have a look at our publication. The link is shared in the chat, which showcases more examples than we could present today. We thank everyone who submitted case studies to us. I also would like to encourage you to continue exchanging through the South-South Cities Clusters platform we just saw in the video. So now it just takes to me to tell you take care and goodbye.